he is, Kilmer.
Hey,
man. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
We're doing it a little different this time. We got headphones on.
Well, thanks to my stepdaughter, Ashlyn, she got us set up. I didn't know how to do it. Megan didn't know how to do it, my wife, so we're all set up now. That's the nice thing about I'm a teenager in the family.
I love it. Well, great job. You look good. We're going to make small improvements along the way.
That's right.
I definitely want the audio to sound good.
Well, yeah. Last time, Ashton, we were coming home from picking her up this morning, and I was like, how's the audio? She's like, it's not very good. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's not very good at all.
No, and on that note, I think it's okay. We're going to make improvements, right? You're always making.
We're trying,
right?
It needs a little tune up, but we're trying.
Tune up. I love it when you say it. Well, it got me thinking because just last week you had called me when you got back from your trip out to the Carolinas, and you said, you're like, Matt, I listened to episode 3 and it was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I should probably listen to it. Even though we made it, right? Even though we made the episode, it was cool to go back and actually listen to it. I listened to it stuck in traffic on the way to a gig last Friday. So
cool.
It's weird to go back and listen to some of that stuff, but it's really about the stories behind the shine, right? And telling the stories. Yeah. And I want to have fun with that in the future, you know? Sure.
I actually listen to podcasts at the airport in North Carolina and then also on the airplane. I finished it up.
Sure. Kilmer, what were you doing in North Carolina?
I was at Trilogy with James. We were there for about 2 days. Mm-hmm. And he texted me and he said this is why I think training is so important, is you learn a different perspective and you hopefully learn efficiencies. Mm-hmm. He did a job right after I left, and he did it in half the time with double the price.
Isn't that interesting?
On the very first job.
Sure.
And that's why we do what we do, right? To help others out. That's why we're doing this podcast, to help others out.
Right. No, you're 100% right. And it's sharing some of these stories of some of the good and the bad and the ugly and everything in between all that. You know, it's cool to go back and reflect on all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about a name because as this podcast will mature, I want to come up with names for the episodes. And I was thinking about, it was cool to go back and hear the story replayed, right? Because I know it in my head, and there's so much more to it, but parts are left out. So it's nice to go back and reflect from it and go like, wow, that stuff really happened. So on that note, there's a little nugget of information that I don't think really made it on that podcast. So I just wanted to reflect, you know, you and I, our real goal with this thing is to kind of tell stories of where we've been and some of the things that we're going to do along the way. And it got me thinking about that moment at the end of my career when I was in sales about making the jump, right? So I kind of want to call this episode Make the Jump because it was really weird. As passionate as I was about selling detailing supplies and my relationships with my customers, I still knew that there was an end to that. And I knew there was something better. I knew there was something greater knocking on my door. And although I had a well-paying job, I saw the guys above me, what it would be like to be at their level and make that kind of money. And as great of people as they were, and, you know, in a lot of ways, they're kind of miserable, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have this conversation quite often. I have been fortunate enough to be around a couple billionaires, and they're pretty unhappy people. Sure. I was just talking to someone, just the other day, and I'm a pretty big people watcher at the airport.
Sure.
And if you look at people's body language and you look at their tone of voice, the majority of people are pretty unhappy. Legitimately, you could tell they're going through some turmoils in their life, whatever that is, and they're not happy. So I find it a point to kind of cheer up a little bit and say, hey, have a blessed day.
Yeah.
That's my thing. Have a blessed day with a
Yeah.
good tone of voice,
Yeah.
and the smile on people's faces are like, you may have made their day,
Sure. Yeah.
and that's what it's all about. It's
Well, I've always said, like 9 good things can happen a day and 1 bad thing happens, and then we just focus on the bad thing. It
sure,
soils all these other things. So it's mindset.
I have a goal of learning one new thing a day, whatever it is, and making someone happy
Yeah.
or saying something nice.
Kilmer, you did that.
How hard is that? It's not hard at all.
Oh, it's great. Well, you, I think you did 2 of those things today. You made me happy because you upgraded some stuff. You got this
I try
set now, right? So you, no, it's really good.
Well, we got to give credit.
Yeah, thank you, Ashland. You did a great job. Yeah, tuned up, ready to go. Sweet. So we could post some of that on the Instagram page. No, browser is not allowing, Jason Kilmer's browser is not allowing Riverside to save to disk. Hold on. Can you hear me over there, Kilmer?
Did that kill everything? Doggone it.
So it's back.
Are we back, Mattie?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
It's okay.
We were having a good conversation, and
Something happened with your phone. Actually, whatever happened now, the quality looks way better. It's doing it again. Whatever you did to your phone, you shouldn't be using your phone. It says browser is now not allowing to record.
go ahead and put the phone back on, please, or take some videos. Thank you.
There you go. You're back.
I'm back.
I think I can edit through all that stuff.
If not, whatever.
No, I should be able to just take it in a Final Cut Pro and go chop. But all right. If you're just if you're still with us, we just had a little technical difficulty, but I think we can fix all that. So we're back,
why?
right?
You know why? Because someone texted me. My neighbor, he's the best guy in the world. He's a big Ring Brothers fan, and he's my mechanic.
Okay.
And I have a slight leak in my radiator, so he's going to come down and take a look at it after this podcast.
Perfect. All right. So, okay, we're back.
We're back.
That's it. We're back. That's where I want to cut in. Right?
Batman.
We just had a little technical difficulty, and we're back talking about make the jump. That was what I wanted to call this one, right?
Make the jump. To what?
So,
to what?
to your passion. I mean, go for it.
Sure.
Right?
Hammer down.
I mean, hammer down. No, the point I really wanted to make, Jason, was that basically going back, right? I knew I had to get the heck out of that industry. So I had an opportunity to go work for this guy selling security services. And I was super into it because I was really at work. They were spying on us. They were bugging our laptops and following us around and stuff like that. And so the whole idea of that kind of intrigued me.
Sure.
And he wanted someone that was green in their industry, but had a sales background.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did is I made the jump, right? And I pushed myself out of my comfort zone once again. And then that whole experience is when I got introduced to the whole Instagram world. When I was going, they were a media company. You know what I mean? They owned a security company and they owned a media company. And I saw what was going on behind the scenes with a lot of media stuff. And that's kind of what pulled me into Instagram.
And what year was this again, Mattie? I don't remember.
This was, stay with me now. This was right at the end of 2018.
18. Okay.
So it was, I gave my notice at S&S Automotive it was like July, like mid-July. And I gave them till August, right? It was like a month. And so they had one of their guys riding along with me for 4 weeks that was going to take my, my sales position. And I was showing them the ropes and stuff. But then when I left, I took the month of August and September off of work. And I'll never forget that time. And I think it was like I really needed that. That was already pre-established before I started the new job. I was due to start the new job October 1 of 2018. And so I had like a 60-day break. And during that time, you traveled a little bit. We went up to northern Wisconsin, made a trip out to the East Coast to visit an old friend of mine for a little trip. And then made my way with my wife for our anniversary to Colorado. So it was like a lot of travel, kind of it condensed into a short amount of time. And it really like fueled me. And then, so now I go into this new job and I'm working with this company, and it was really strange. I don't want to get into all of that. Maybe if somebody wants to hear more about that in the future, we can. But every Monday morning, part of my training was to work side by side with their social media manager. And we had a 4:00 call on Mondays. It was either 3:30 or 4:00. We did a 90-minute call with this Facebook marketing strategist. And some of the stuff, I basically, I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm just sitting in the background, with my arms crossed, just like taking it all in, watching all this stuff. You know what I mean?
You're like,
I don't know.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why you hired me, but I'm here.
So, but that's when you don't know. I mean, you just kind of stand back, and that's why you got 2 ears and one mouth is to listen, right?
Listen. That's
so.
If any takeaway today, folks, it's listening, is listen. Keep this shut.
Yep.
And use these. That's why God gave you ears.
It's really crazy. So that kind of like doing this for, every Monday for the fall, it was a transitioning time. And through, as I started to find out what was going on more with their organization, how things were going, I started quickly building tension with their leader. Like it was just not, the energy wasn't right. And I was feeling that pretty quick. And the whole time I'm still like, getting work phone calls about this and that and help putting out fires. And just because, almost 20 years as a sales guy, these customers become friends of yours. So you just don't abandon them, and throw them away to the garbage because, you're not, just because they're not your customers. It's like they fed your hands for almost 20 years. You're going to be, a gentleman about it and return their calls. So nevertheless, I'm getting off topic.
That's all right.
I wanted to say, as things progressed, I started October 1st of 2018 at that new job, and it lasted almost 3 months. And we get to about a week before Christmas time. And I felt tension, and I felt like quickly, like this isn't going to work. Right. And I remember going into work on a Monday morning, and it was literally the week before Christmas. And I was like, I remember like there was a sense of panic inside me. And I think I messaged my wife that morning, and I was like, oh my, like there's something's weird is going on. I don't like the way this feels. Right. And like within like 90 minutes of that time happening, the owner of the company pulled me in the office, and he's like, hey, this isn't working. Yeah. And I was like, great.
Like, fantastic. I'm out of here.
But it was a real, Jason, it was a real blow to my ego. You know what I mean? And that I really think that I have a big ego, but like still as a man being, the breadwinner of the family at the time, making money, having the courage to make the jump into a new job. Now you just get punched in the gut and you're out the door. Right. Yeah. And, I think looking back at this stuff now, it was all really meant to be, all of it, because, right, here I am in this transition phase once again. And coincidentally, like about, I think it was literally like 2 weeks before this all happened, I had purchased a new snowmobile, and I financed it. You know what I mean? Put a little money down. I had this new, so there was panic of that, like, oh my God, am I going to be able to afford the snowmobile?
Yeah.
And so as time goes on, it gets a little interesting, right? So I get laid off, permanent layoff, right? The guy that laid me off was a gentleman, gave me a small severance to kind of make it through the wintertime.
And this was after Christmas, correct? Not before?
No, it was right before Christmas. I got laid off.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The week before Christmas. And I wanted to tell this story because this is the pivotal point. And this is important, I think, for anybody that hears the story, can relate, because, at that moment, I was kind of like, felt defeated, which is okay.
Sure.
But I needed some time to just think clearly and gather my thoughts. And in that moment, I didn't really, so I was like, okay, look, you don't have to make a decision quickly, but, like, it's wintertime. You just bought this new snowmobile. And coincidentally, it was like one of the highest snowfall totals up in northern Wisconsin and Michigan. And so I took advantage of this break that I had. And it allowed me to clear my head a little bit and to kind of just see the forest through the trees, as I like to say. And I was like, after all that stuff, I said, you know what? I'm never going to go back and work for the men in suits again and be, part of this bigness that they fuel you with, you know what I mean? They promise you a bunch of stuff like, oh, you're going to make all this money, you're going to have all this potential and all this stuff. But I kind of was reflected on my career and how I always held up my end of the bargain, right? When there was a task that was put before me or a sales goal, it fueled me. It made me hungry.
Well, you bring up a great point. That's why we're still here together, because I asked you a simple task.
Yeah.
And that was taking me to the airport. Is this guy going to actually come or not? I already had the Uber. I was ready to go if you didn't show up.
Right.
But for some reason, I knew you were going to show up.
Sure.
Whether it was body language or the way, your tone of voice, we were strangers, but I knew you were going to show up.
Well, side note for the viewers that are listening, I always, if you look on my Instagram profile and you look at some of the pictures and you zoom in on the left side of the cars, there's a little sign there that says O'Hare, right? My whole life, I grew up right by O'Hare Airport. And when I was a boy, all my family, my aunts, my uncle, everybody, when they travel, everyone would park on our driveway. I'm the airport guy now because my dad, he would take everyone to the airport. And then when I worked for the O'Hare Auto Group, I would pick up, take the owner to the airport. So side note, taking people to the airport is just, I guess it's in my blood.
Yeah. And you're good. You're awful good at it.
Well, I know my way around from being in outside sales for 17 years in the field, driving a truck in the beginning and then in my car. But, kind of going back to it, I decided, Jason, I didn't want to work for anybody again. And I had this opportunity, right? Like detailing was always my pet. Like it's something I doing forever, cleaning up cars. I know how to do this stuff. Yeah. I have all the skills that I need to run and start and operate a small scale business. And I can do this right out of my garage, And so I doubled down and I was like, it was at that moment that I was like, I remember the day I went to go to sign up for unemployment and talk about like a real kick in the nuts. And I'm like, but also just kind of like really depressing to see because it's like that's another side of the world that we don't really often see sometimes how hard people are really struggling. And I've always had a job and I've always been busy. So for me to come this far and have a really good job and really kind of see it go to that, like it definitely made me feel like I hit the bottom.
Well, it's definitely a wake up call of, who you are inside and what you really want.
Sure.
And the most successful people I've ever met have hit rock bottom. You have to hit rock bottom before you can actually succeed.
Yeah.
And that journey you may hit rock bottom more than once. You probably are. That's just realistic. I've hit rock bottom a handful of times.
Dude.
And it's part of life.
It is. And I look, this podcast is going to mature, and I know we have a ton of things to talk about and dive into, but I wanted to make sure I didn't leave this piece out because it's important for me, and I think other people can relate to it. And additionally, there's just being defeated, it fuels you, right? And in that moment of defeat, and sitting with my thoughts and taking a little bit of time, I knew I would be able to take this small scale business. And that was the whole thing that I wanted to do because, and that's a hard piece to teach people, right? Because you think you should be doing what the other guy's doing, or you think you should be doing this, or you think you should be doing that without really trying to sit with your own thoughts and think what you should be doing. Right. And I'm like, man, I've been working now for over 20 years and I've been doing what other people think I should be doing,
Exactly.
And for, to be fair, did a pretty damn good job at doing that.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so now I'm kind of like, I'm realizing like, no, and having that little break and that transition and having time off, it really made me think like, detailing would be a really good thing for my soul. Because I can, I love the wintertime. I want to take time off. I want to be able to break. I want to have a little reprieve. So that seasonal business to me kind of actually pulled me in. I like the idea. I'm like, man, if I can work my ass off spring, summer, and fall. Now, granted, I still work in the wintertime, but I'm not busy. You know what I mean? And it's not like I have this big, huge scope of projects, multiple cars during a week and that type of stuff. So, the wintertime I wanted to keep open for me.
You cannot put a price on freedom.
No.
It's priceless because I'm self-employed. My wife is self-employed. We can do whatever we want, whenever we want. And our kids are homeschooled.
Right.
Our two younger ones.
Yeah.
So if I say, hey, let's go to the ocean, or let's go visit your in-laws on the other side of the mountain. We can do that whenever, whatever.
Sure.
And sure, we're not making $150K each, but you can't put a price on that because you look at everyone around you, they are a slave to their job. They have the money, granted.
Right.
But I have the freedom to spend the time with either my family or do these podcasts or whatever. There's a certain amount of freedom that you can never put a price tag on.
No. I mean, it's there, and that nothing comes for free, and that's not easy either. You know what I mean?
No.
That comes at a cost. There's a lot of other pains and a lot of other stuff behind the scenes that makes that being your own boss and being an entrepreneur it still has its own set of challenges. And it's your mindset. And I keep thinking more and more about the mindset, having, right now while you and I were shooting this podcast, it is like 2 days before Thanksgiving. And this is actually going to air on Thanksgiving Day. And so, or go live on Thanksgiving Day. So, there's this time of year, I'm feeling nostalgia and kind of reflective and grateful for a lot of these opportunities that have been put before me, that's why I'm talking about this today.
Well,
it's a deep dive, Kilmer.
We've talked a lot the last couple of days. We've talked to two very substantial YouTubers the last 2 days.
That's true.
And
they were great conversations, by the way, for our viewers.
And to just be thankful that we have those opportunities to help people out.
Yeah.
And that comes across in our conversation, in our body language. Like, we're legitimately trying to help people out, and the money's on the back end.
Right.
Most of the time with big business, money's on the front end.
Yeah.
And the other's on the back end, way on the back end, where we're completely opposite.
Well, it's what fuels us. That's part of the reason the whole episode, our podcast is just driven by details, right? Because that's the drive. It's the thing that fuels
It's the
us.
drive. It's how good can we get it, but also in the back of our head knowing it's not going to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we do.
Yeah.
We did a great job on 6 SEMA cars.
Oh my gosh.
We won Battle of the Builders,
Yeah.
but there were still imperfections in that truck.
Yep. That's true.
And
Nuances.
everybody involved knew it and was okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
We did. Everybody in that project did their very best.
Well,
And that's all you can ask for.
Sure. Well, it's honesty and it's transparency, and that those types of things help kind of set the bar, because there's also a threshold to things. It's like,
Sure.
reality is reality, and although you might be able to push the limitations at time, is it feasible, right? And sometimes it's not, because perfection in automotive stuff, it's how can you perfect the imperfect, right?
I'm laughing off screen. My daughter Ashlyn just opened up a jar of paste wax, and it has SiO2 in it, and she's like, "Ugh."
Oh my gosh! See, well, for our viewers, there's a problem when you have paste wax in the kitchen.
Hey, well, I had to warm it up in the microwave. It's cold out. It's raining. It's stormy. It's blowing out.
Kilmer, you have to send me the recipe for that pie. What is that? Paste wax pie.
Give me that paste wax pie. It's a little scratchy.
It's a little scratchy.
You'll warm it up in your paws.
Oh my gosh! See, this is the stuff that makes me laugh when we start getting a little off topic. But right, the whole goal was make the jump. Right.
Yep.
Make the jump,
Yep.
and I think that even is still good advice for us today. Right, because there's all these other opportunities that we're working on, and all these things that are going on behind the scenes. And I guess we can probably even just start talking about that now. Over the next 60 days, I'm going to be working with you and our friend Anthony. We're going to be kind of working on building out a pilot course for a 20-day automotive training program.
And tell the viewers kind of what it is. And that's really how we became friends, was because of you mentioning that class. Yeah.
So my good friend Anthony, a customer of mine, and I've known him now for close to 15 years. He owned a high volume car wash, and that's where I first met him, selling him bulk liquids to run the car wash. But then he advanced into a bigger building and started doing some pretty ridiculous wholesale detailing, where he had a full recon center, basically doing detail touch-up, photo dents, taking pictures of the car for the dealers, like a one-stop shop. And I think in his peak, if I'm not mistaken, he was wholesale detailing I think 700 cars a month.
That's insane.
2 shifts. Like day crew, night crew. Just insanity, right? Brain damage, I like to call it. But his building coincidentally was across the street from a high school, and the building, when he obtained the building, the previous owner was in the process of converting the building into an entertainment center, because he knew people were renting out old industrial buildings for weddings and events and that type of stuff. So basically, mid renovation, this guy runs out of money, building goes up for sale. Anthony comes in, moves in, buys the building, and turns it into his Chicago Auto Recon. So if you're back, we just had a little technical difficulty. There's a storm out by Kilmer, and we were talking about the 3rd floor at Chicago Auto Recon being special for events. And that's the part about the training piece that we wanted to start doing, right? Remember?
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me, you and I met. I was telling you about this program that Anthony and I wanted to start putting on with the high school students, because what had happened, they had dissolved their automotive department, I believe at the end of 2017 or 18, I forget the timeline, but the automotive teacher that was teaching automotive retired. So the principal came across the street and asked if they could work something out where he could come and teach part-time, like automotive at the high school. And that's kind of where the idea of that whole part with working with high school students to introduce them to the world of automotive, whether it's detailing and body work and collision or soft mechanics, whatever that is, that was the idea. Right. But when you and I met, I was telling you about this, and I think in episode 3, where we were just talking about when you and I met, that was one of the things I'd mentioned to you. I was like, hey, there's this opportunity possibly in the future with this program to work with training high school students.
And I said what?
And you said, yeah, I'm in.
I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why I have a passion for high school kids and especially underprivileged, whether that's in a rough community or a disability, is because I have a disability.
Sure.
Not only physically, but a lot of people don't know I have a disability, learning disability as well. So I really have a passion for kids that want to learn,
right,
but don't necessarily fit the mold of high school, college, grads, right?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't that student.
Yeah. Yes.
And it doesn't mean that a student is stupid. It just means they don't fit the mold of typical high school. And the reality of it is most kids actually don't fit that mold realistically.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're stupid. It just doesn't mean they fit that small criteria.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. Well, and I mean, you tracked with me on that, and you were like, man, this is really cool. But then, it's hard to kind of explain because it's inner city, it's not, social media and detailing, and there's a lot of stuff that makes the glitz and the glam and make it look, it's like it's all pretty and perfect and nice, which is cool, but that's not often reality, and so
no,
I remember explaining being in the inner city to you, and I mean, tell for our viewers your first time being at Chicago.
Sure.
You walk in and what was that like?
It's grit. It's hardcore old school grit. And I can relate to that, but here's a funny story. So I took about 5 students downstairs, and they were around me. The first class was pretty quiet. First and second class were pretty quiet. They didn't say a whole lot.
Right.
And I asked them, I said, listen, I'm not from the inner city, especially Chicago.
Right.
And I said, do you guys and gals have a chance in life? And they're like, no. I said, okay, why not? Because it's not here. The opportunity is not here. So the opportunity for a typical inner city kid, the only way to get out or make money is drugs.
Yeah.
And that's what they told me.
That's it.
I mean, and it's all over the United States of America. But fast forward now, you remember the last class we had one rock star. Remember?
That's great. I do. Yeah.
You put a sander in his hand, he's like, yeah, I've done this before. I'm like, where did you learn this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second class, we put them on the polisher, and they're going to town, scrubbing and getting scratches out. And I'm like, look at what you did. They're like, holy smokes.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, well, when you think about how big of an impact the reach of automotive is, right? It's, I mean, with insurance companies and body and collision and paint and glass and all the stuff, and it's crazy. And so there is, you might not get into detailing.
No,
but it's a good way to get introduced.
But that's not the goal. The main goal is creating
an opportunity
and self-esteem in these kids, because a lot of these kids don't have any self-esteem, and I understand it. I get it. I was them. Take out the inner city, but with my learning disability and my physical disability, I didn't have a chance.
Sure. It's the timing of all this stuff was super interesting as like we're kind of playing through it live, like right before I met you, when we met right before the pandemic started.
Yeah.
It was right, at the time, like I started my detailing business and I had been approached by Anthony, my old customer. He's like, hey, the high school wants us to do a pilot course for the students, And so Anthony and I started kind of building out the modules for that and what that might look like and how many days is it going to be, what do we need, and everything that's involved, right? And so they come to us and we had picked a day. I don't remember. It was mid-May. It was supposed to be May of 2020 when we were supposed to do the class. Well, then what happened then? We're building the modules in the wintertime and spending time, getting this stuff together, and then the pandemic happened. So that was a full, full stop.
Yeah.
And then meantime, you and I had connected and you were doing trainings, and there was a couple other local people that knew, some of my old contacts that I sold products to that knew that I was out of doing, selling liquids and now doing more on the service side of things that wanted to learn. So I had a small group of people that were like, dude, I want to learn how to do this correction and ceramic coating stuff. So that's when we did our first it was essentially the pilot class at Chicago Auto Recon, and we did like a hybrid course.
Yeah.
Where we did a group of individuals that actually paid money, and then we actually held a few seats for the high school students to attend. And I think we were supposed to have, I think there was 10 or 12 students that actually signed up to be, to take the course. But when it came time to show up and actually come to a free, weekend training, I think we only had like 6 or 7 kids.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, on the second day, only 3 or 4 of them came back. So it was really tough, because here we are trying to get this program going that, as a request from the school to try and give back to the community and help a little bit and see if we can get some symmetry here and get this thing off the ground. But I mean, it's just nothing but speed bumps and roadblocks and the wind straight in your face. It was really tough.
It's hard because I understand the school system, and I understand the workforce, and there's a very big gap, just like there is in anything else in the world. Right. And these kids are expected to do A, B, C, right? But they don't fit into the A, B, C mold.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're stupid.
Right.
It just doesn't. It just means that they don't learn in a typical school setting.
No.
And that's okay.
No, it is okay.
But the schools are geared towards A, B, C.
Yeah.
Well, they might be X and Z, or P and Y, or M and P. It doesn't matter. The matter is taking a student, knowing what their learning style is, or anybody.
Yeah.
And taking what they know really well and adapting to how they understand.
Sure. Well, and also I think they need to, people need to get introduced to this type of work, and not this type of work, just get introduced to something at a younger age. And it's by the time, a lot of these guys get introduced to something, it's like they're, I don't want to say it's too late, but they're not engaged. So, I think it kind of goes back to the whole reason that I wanted to name this episode is Make the Jump. You know what I mean?
I have a funny story since my stepdaughter, I call her my daughter, on the back side of the camera right now. I have a funny story. So when I met my wife in Ashland, her daughter, we went to a car show.
Okay.
It was a concourse show. And she was 6 years old, almost 7. And she has a very good eye, and so does her mom. Okay. And she was out loud. She said, "It's a $500,000 car." She's like, "There's scratches there, Jason. There's scratches." I'm like, "Oh, quiet, please, quiet. Like, shh, it's okay. Yeah. I see him too." Like. So the point of that is people are smart. Kids are smart.
Sure. Well, and okay, but I think I want to know, and maybe the viewers want to know, were there scratches on the car that you got ready for the show, Kilmer? Was it a car that you
Absolutely, there was.
Of course, I had to take it there, right?
Yeah.
I had to throw you a jab.
No, but it's funny though because
No, kids. Yeah.
my daughter Rowan's like, Dad, there's scratches there. Like,
Yeah.
you missed a spot of dirt on the wheel. I'm like, I can't fit in there. Go ahead and go get it.
We got to get her on camera saying, Dad, can you sand out these scratches? Like,
Dad, you suck.
Dad, there's a scratch.
Dad, you missed a spot.
Speaking of that, a little off topic. One of my good friends sent me a video. I might have to see if I.
Oh, dude, I saw that.
I sent it to you. Yeah. For our viewers, a friend of mine has a son. I think 2 or 3 or 4 years old. He's young, and he scratched the ram all the way around the truck. Like started in the back, full circle.
Yeah, all the way down. I'm like,
all the way down,
no.
Goes up, goes down. He did take it to a body shop, and the body shop said,
"We can't fix that.
We can't fix it. We got to respray the whole truck." But he's like, "Well, what do you think?" And I was like, "Well, it's your truck, dude." And I'm like, I know for a fact that some of the scratches will stand out. The other scratches probably won't.
Yeah.
But like, even if you pay me to do it, it's still going to cost a lot of money. So
you're like, it just needs a quality tune-up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's ways to fix it on a budget. Is it going to look perfect? No. That's why I call it.
Does anything look perfect? No.
No, well, paint touch-up stuff is, I enjoy doing it here and there, but like there needs to be an expectation with that too. It's the reason they call it paint touch-up and not paint repair. You're touching up the freaking car.
You're making it look better, more presentable.
Yeah, well, and especially here in the Midwest with all the salt that we get, I mean, the bigger value you're going to get out of touch-up paint is just preserving it and not letting the salt and corrosion get there to, open it up even more. But anyways, as we start getting crazy off topic, I'm going to try to reel us back in before we run out of time in today's episode. But the tying it back into the high school and the students, this whole thing and our quest that we've been on preaching education is really special, and I feel great, humbled and blessed to be able to do this stuff because it's not like I'm trying to, you or I are trying to force someone into this box that you speak of, right?
No.
We're trying to really get people to think, right? And right, and think. And it's not so much about what you're using or what brand. It's use your, think outside the box.
With the high school kids, for me and for you, I know, it's not even about detailing. Correct. It's about giving them a self-esteem for whatever they want to do in life. Right. Give them little bits of success along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that could change someone's life for the rest of their life. What we do and what we say could change someone's life for the rest of their life. Well, that's the ability that we have. And you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the cars. Me and your relationship, why we have this podcast, has nothing to do with the cars. It's about you and me and what we want to teach. There's nothing to do with the cars. Cars are secondary.
Well, for everybody that's listening to this, the schooling part of kind of what we've been working on, man, we started talking about this stuff back in 2017 or 16 when he bought that building.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of been there to some glimmer, but now it's like, it's materialized and it's gotten closer. And we've had nothing, like I said, but roadblocks and hurdles. But now, kind of in a post-pandemic world where there's different changes in that actual that area that they're in, that industrial zone, there's opportunities there, and people are watching and they know that this community needs it. And I was just talking to Anthony about this the other day, looking for funding and all this stuff since he started working on renovating that third floor for training. With the HVAC system and the heating and the air and the tools and the equipment and electronics and all the stuff that he's bought, plus the expense of putting on trainings and lunches and all this stuff. I mean, over the course of close to 3 years now, I mean, he's spent close to $100,000 of his own money. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't think about it, right? It's like, okay, we got to have ventilation and we got to have this. So we need to have an emergency exit. We got to have all these things to meet the building code so we can actually legally do this stuff.
Sure.
And it's just like, if an entrepreneur like that is going to put up his own money to give back to the community, why wouldn't other people want to be on board? Because even in the smallest little impact that we've made with these students, it's been positive.
Well,
You know what I mean? And
you're right.
That's great.
And any help work. Any amount of help works.
Yeah. Yes.
And I feel compelled to expand outside of Chicago. There's kids all over the United States of America right now that don't fit into that mold. How can we help?
Yeah.
And how can we get others on board financially
Right.
to help America out, help the world out? That's our mission.
Well, and it's everything good takes time, and big grandiose ideas. There's still small building blocks, all that stuff. So it's weird, with all the stuff that we've done over the last couple of years. We still have a tremendous amount of work in front of us, and it's sometimes daunting to me. And so my goal is to kind of close down, like I've always wanted to do. Tying it back into me wanting the seasonal business, I want to close down the business. I have a couple big winter projects I'm going to be working on. I got to sand an old Porsche. I got a local guy that's a Porsche collector. I got to get that car up to speed, and then I have an AMG Mercedes-Benz. I might even fly you in the winter time to help me with that.
Let's do it.
We got to sand a black Mercedes and buff that out. So,
well, I might be coming into Chicago. Then we go to Cleveland.
Yeah. We'll save that for the next podcast.
Yeah. Just a little teaser, a little tune-up,
Kilmer, a little teaser. But yeah, next. So I think as we got a little bit more time before we actually have to sign off before this episode is done, because we had a little technical difficulties with the storm out by you, but we're getting close to the end. 2023 is on our doorstep. And you and I are going to have a handful more of these podcasts to end out the year. And then when January starts, we're going to start bringing on guests and interviewing some guests. So I think that...
And we have a lot on the list.
We have a lot on the list.
For everybody I've talked to is like, let's do it.
Yeah. No, it's going to be... Well, because that's our mission was the stories behind the shine, and giving an opportunity for us and to bring in people to tell their story. Because it's strangely weird how relatable everything is,
Sure.
And a lot of the stuff that I'm going through, or you're going through, or someone's going through, it's relatable to something on some level. You know what I mean? Where our listeners and our viewers are like, man, I know exactly what that's like. I've been there. I've gone through that. So I'm excited for us to get to next year, but we are going to be, before the end of the year, making some announcements for training in 2023. With
who and what?
So with
just give them a glimpse, a little tune-up.
A little tune-up. Today's tune-up, we're going to give you a little glimpse of where the trainings are going to take place in the season next season. In the season next season, he says.
Whatever.
We're just having fun. No, so I'll tell you this, because there's still the fine details of this should be together here in the next 10 to 15 days. But the goal is to have a training out in California at the last weekend in April.
With who?
That's going to be held at Paul Springer's place.
All right.
So if you're listening to this and you are interested in training at Paul Springer's, it's going to be, I don't have those dates in front of me, but it's the last April.
Sign up, give us your money.
Last weekend in April, we'll be there.
And we'll have a special guest.
And we'll have a special guest.
Yep.
And we'll wait to say that later.
Yep.
But we're going to have a special guest there. And then the fine details, we're going to do a Midwest class. That's going to take place at one of two locations, and it's going to take place in late June or July.
With a special guest?
With a special guest.
Or two.
And then we're going to go back to the West Coast in the fall, late September, early October. So all the information on that is going to be public before the end of the year.
With the special guest as well.
Yes, correct. So you and I have, and we have a lot more work to do, but we got a lot of work to do, and that's
We got a big tune-up.
A big tune-up coming up. That's going to take a lot of tune-up time to get done. We got to make stickers, Kilmer. If
Tune-up.
If our listeners are listening to this, would you want to hear or have us make tune-up stickers? I think we should make that.
Absolutely.
That sounds like a good idea. Tune-up.
Tune-up. Just tune-up.
No, but I had said that, you know, I have to start building out these slides and these modules for training that'll be used for when. What's cool about this is that when we do our trainings, whether it's beginning, entry-level training or advanced training, some of the slides and the modules we're going to build are going to be able to be used for all the stuff that we're going to be doing in the future. So it's kind of like I thought about this today, Jason. Like I remember some of the pains I went through when I was building my website.
Sure.
And how much of looking back at it now, I hated it. Right. But I really I'm proud of my website because I didn't copy. I didn't go on, like all the verbiage and everything those are my words. And it took me a long time to extract it from my head, what I wanted to put down on paper.
Sure.
And I fought myself on a lot of that stuff. So maybe, now that it's all done and looking back, I'm proud of that. And I'm hoping
sure,
that this
absolutely,
with creating some of this content and creating some of the stuff that we're going to use for training, will be a similar experience, right? It's going to be hard to do because as I mentioned earlier, the school wants us to actually do a pilot class in quarter one of next year, which would have basically like be a 20-day course, but a 12 to 15 of the days would actually be virtual. So there'd be virtual training involved, but then the other portion of the days would be on hands in-person training, and they wouldn't be like the long day trainings like we're used to. It'd be, maybe a rotation of 3 groups that train for 3 hours a day, or 2.5 hours a day. So a lot of this stuff is not defined because we're creating it from nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to doing this because
I'm looking forward to it because here's the ultimate goal: is changing these kids' lives, changing entrepreneurs' lives. Like, what we've learned over the course of almost 50 years, we can accelerate people's careers, or maybe let's say detailing is not for them.
Sure. Yeah. Correct.
But but the thought process and the procedures are the same. They can be a plumber, they can be a roofer, they can be whatever.
That's what we call transferable skills.
Transferable skills to make a living for themselves and make a living for their family. Like, you can't put a price on that.
No.
You cannot put a price on that.
It's so true. You got to put food on the table at 5 o'clock,
Yeah. Or 6 or 7
or 6
or 8.
It's
whatever time.
Whatever time it is. But no, it's this is, and I think in you saying that, something that I'm kind of excited for myself personally is kind of learning and rediscovering some things that I'm going to learn about myself, right? And there's going to be some lessons.
Well, that
I'm going to learn along the way.
You're right, because when I teach someone, I want to learn as much as I teach. I learn as much from my students as I do teaching.
Right.
I've learned from you.
Right.
I've learned from my business partner, Aaron Knox.
Yeah.
I've learned from my business partner, Andy.
Yeah.
I've learned from everybody.
Correct.
And I even told, we're coming out to Wisconsin in early December.
Yeah.
And I post on Facebook, I want to teach, but I also want to learn.
Yeah.
It's a give and take.
Sure.
Not everybody knows everything. Nobody knows everything. Well, I can learn and I can teach for my students.
Yeah.
Some students have said, well, Jason, what if you do it like this? Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, it worked out or it didn't work out. But
true.
That's not the point is what you learn from it.
Yeah.
Whether it worked out or didn't work out, that's part of it. Abraham Lincoln said, I learn from everybody, whether it's not what to do or what not to do.
Well, you learn by doing, right?
Yeah.
And we, we learn as we train, we kind of learn how people respond and what, we know how to adapt, but our trainings always continue to evolve because we're always learning. And that's why group trainings they are special. I mean, anybody that's listened to this that's been to a Boston University can honestly say that, though, that's an experience, and that tribal knowledge when people come together and someone asks a question and it challenges the instructors and the groups, you bring that collectiveness of everybody, learning together. That type of stuff is super cool, man.
Well,
That's all I can say.
I have three things when we do an exercise, and I've done it to you. Does it look good? Does it look bad? Or is it indifferent? It looks bad. Okay. Why do you think it looks bad? Well, this, and this, and this. Okay. Let's do that. If it looks good, what went good? What went bad? Or if you're undecided, indifferent, what could we do good or bad to figure it out?
Yeah. The whole time you were saying that, I was going to suggest that it looks bad because it needs a tune-up.
Tune-up. Everything needs a tune-up. I don't care how good it is.
Needs a tune-up. Those are new shirts. I'm going to make sweatshirts next year. If you guys are listening to this and you want a needs a tune-up shirt, let me know. So
would you put tune-up on the front or tune-up on the back?
That's a good question.
Or both?
We'll have to think about that, Jason.
So our viewers, do you want to tune up on the front or the back?
Tune up on the front or tune up on the back? That's a good one, though. We got to make the shirt. I love it.
Tune up.
We did
that actually came from my business partner, Andy Ward.
That's awesome.
With my bad eye, which is this eye, he goes, Kilmer, do you need a tune-up? We're in New York, right? On a really expensive collection. He goes, I said, Andy Ward, Proficient X, I need a tune-up. He come over and he's like, Kilmer, looks terrible. You do need a tune-up.
Oh, that's why it's great working with another set of eyes. You know what I mean? Because, sometimes people see things through a different lens. And
and we've said that ourselves. Mattie, how does this look? I don't need your opinion. You don't need my opinion.
I will
but
tell you.
A separate set of eyes really helps out.
I know. It does. And I have to get used to just cleaning my glasses because there's a handful of times where I'm like, I get haze on my glasses.
Sure.
And I wipe it. I'm like, the car's hazy. And I'm like, I wipe, it looks the same. I'm like, it's my freaking glasses are hazy. You know what I mean?
So remember when we tried to put paint sealant on the Grand National?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I said, Mattie, it's not going to work. He's like, oh, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. And it was a mess. I knew it. But I'm like, okay, I'll let Mattie sink. But it was terrible. It needed a tune-up.
A lot of wiping on the Grand National.
In fact, I had to repolish it again, didn't I?
No, not all of it. There were
most
spots.
of it. No,
after letting it sit the next day and coming back and letting it settle, wiping it off, it was fine. By day 2, we were good. It's just the polymers, nothing wanted to dry.
They didn't like it.
No,
not at all.
Didn't. But now we know for next time.
Hopefully, there won't be next time on that car.
Well, it's a local car, so who knows?
Yeah.
I might have.
Well, for you, not for me.
Yeah.
Unless I get a text from Germany, help.
Yeah. Well, I think we got so much going on. We have a lot to talk about, and that's why we're doing this podcast, right? Right, Jason?
We are blessed. We are blessed to do what we do.
Yeah. No,
people actually listen to what we say, which is crazy. Yes.
Well, it comes from an honest place, right? And it comes from a lot of experience, and I think that's something that experience is the greatest teacher. So
absolutely,
and that's why we're still on this quest. You know what I mean?
We'll be on the quest till we die.
So that's it. Yeah, I think so. I think that can kind of maybe wrap up our episode 4. We have a couple more of these that we're going to do to kind of finish out the year, as I mentioned, and bring in some other guests. But I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Make the jump, right? That's the moral of this. Like this podcast is going to air on Thanksgiving, and very thankful for the opportunity to do this. And I thank you, everybody, for listening. Appreciate everyone's support, and we're grateful for you guys. And I don't have the lay of the land for the next couple episodes, but I did want to state that if you guys are listening to this podcast and you've made it this far, if there's a specific topic that you would like to see Jason and I talk about in the future, shoot me a direct message, shoot Jason a message, leave it in the comments. I know I've already got
Don't leave me a message.
listed. Yeah, leave it. Well, you say, yeah, why not? You have your kind of set up people that leave, messages. You could just forward it to me.
I'll just forward it to you. Mattie's the boss.
I'm the boss on the Driven by Details podcast. Not really.
You are. It's fine.
Really.
It's all good. It's fine.
You know what? We're just having fun.
We're having fun.
I appreciate all that stuff. So, again, if you guys want to hear something specific, we're going to get to a lot of stuff. Guests are coming next year. But in the meantime, I guess we'll just sign off, Kilmer. I got to go actually cut up some videos from some stuff that I did today. I'm working on a video that I want to get up here before the end of the weekend. So I hope everybody has a nice Thanksgiving.
What'd you use? Did you use APS?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll talk about that in the next podcast.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. We don't have to do a whole podcast on it, but
it deserves a podcast, though.
It does deserve a podcast. I completely agree. You know what? Maybe we'll, if it's not on the next podcast, let's definitely do one of those before.
What does APS stand for all the viewers that may not know? All-purpose
soap.
What does that mean, Mattie?
It means it does a little bit of everything.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
It does a little bit of everything.
It gives it a tune-up.
It gives it a liquid tune-up, Kilmer. It's a liquid tune-up. Oh, you guys, this is best. Everyone's probably like, what are they doing over there?
They're on crack.
They're on drugs. No, just a beer. I was drinking a Kronbacher. There we go. Boom. And I think I'm going to go crack another beer and start working.
WD-40 I was on.
Nice.
From Thad Sullivan.
Nice. I love it. There you go, Thad. He's going to be happy about that. He's going to love it. We'll have to get a shout out. I'll have to put that on our Instagram stories. So.
Absolutely.
Cool, guys. Well, Kilmer, happy Thanksgiving, brother.
Thank you, too.
Thank you for carving out a little bit of time tonight to do this. And
no pun intended. Carving the turkey.
Mm-hmm. See?
Needs a little tune-up.
That was a nice segue. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. See you guys.
Thank you. Blessed.
On our next episode. You guys have a good night.
Hammer down.
Hammer down.